Hey, where'd you see that Play-Doh deal? I read it today, like 3 days ago. Yeah, it was a company that was going out of business because of that, and then they developed Play-Doh. Anyway, I wish I could say I'd known that for a lot of years, but then you'd wonder what the hell I do with my life. So anyway, we'll make this quick on the introductions. We have Casey Shell and Brandon Neal with us. Casey is the Chief Facilities Officer at Oklahoma State, and Brandon is the Director of Energy Services for Oklahoma State. So you two?
Very good.
I thought you decided to leave when I got there. So anyway, it's all your guys. Thank you.
Is this working? All right.
Here we go.
First time. All right. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you all for having us here today. And also thank you for hosting my daughter last week as Student of the Month. You were really kind to her, and it was a really meaningful experience for her. I know she probably walked out of here an inch taller. Y'all made her feel really good, so I wanted to say thank you everybody for that. That was something. But enough about my kids. We wanted to come visit you today and talk about Lake Carl Blackwell. It's a big asset that is owned and operated by the university. And I know there's been some discussion about it lately, so I wanted to just give everybody a run through and talk about what's going on, a little bit about the dam, a little bit about the history, a little bit what's been going on with it lately. So we will start there. First, you can see up on the slides, and I appreciate you, Kevin, for making our technology work for us today. I thought I'd just give you a few views of it because I know, although many of you have probably seen the lake from the wet side from a boat, maybe not everybody's seen it from the air or some of the views that we get to see it from with the university or with the USDA. What you can see there in the photo is, and I don't know which way to point. Maybe Craig can point for us. You can see the dam itself. It's looking out on the lake. And one of the big features of the dam area itself is the USDA hydraulics lab. There's a hydraulics research lab that's been there almost as long as the dam itself. And I believe they were conceived together. So this is what it looks like from the air. You can see about half the dam here. This is more like, this is your bird's eye view. You can see this dam is about a mile long. So it is a pretty good hike from the gate out to the spillway and back. A beautiful walk. Some of what we'll talk about is the back slope of the dam. So I included this photo so you could get a feel for just how steep it is. This, pardon me, the dam was built in 1938. And one of the features of dams at that time was a pretty steep back slope. You can kind of get a feel for, you can see the power poles in the picture, how high the dam is. And you can see our chief engineer in the bottom photo, get a little bit more of an idea for scale. This is the spillway. This is not the original spillway. The spillway was rebuilt shortly after the dam was opened. It is a concrete single OG spillway. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, that's all right.
It does now.
It does, I know. It definitely does its job. It's moved a fair amount of water. We are not going to zoom in on what's written on the side. That's not OSU authorized brand management graphics. Sure, it's interesting though. A little bit more about the history of the dam. It was created by the Bankhead-Jones Act of 1937. That was essentially round 2 of the New Deal. Second round of funding, the intent was to take, I don't remember what the term was. I remember thinking that it might have been insulting at the time. Underutilized lands or something like that was the term. It was basically coming into the Midwest and making better use of the land. And one of the ways of doing that, of course, was augmenting and facilitating what the university could do for the public. And so serving the public that's a key feature of the dam. That's why it's there. It was created for the specific purpose of drinking water, for irrigation, for research and recreation. couple of bullet points on it. Construction started in 1937 and completed in 1938. And if anybody in the room is at all familiar with capital projects and big multi-million-dollar projects, that is staggeringly fast. It's really impressive. The USDA Hydraulic Research Unit moved there in 1941. That's, just a couple of years later, and currently provides the drinking water for the OSU campus and served the city of Stillwater for a while too. Some other interesting numbers, 61,000 acre feet. That's how much water the lake holds. And if 61,000 acre feet doesn't mean anything to you, that's okay. What 61,000 acre feet is, it's 61,000 acres, 1 foot deep. But maybe a different way to look at it is if you picked up Lake Carl Blackwell and emptied it into Kaw Lake, which provides the city of Stillwater's water, it would add just under 4 feet. So you can imagine that maybe Lake Carl Blackwell's not a real big lake when you compare it to Kaw. Largest lake in Oklahoma is, help me out here, come on, where'd it go? It's Eufaula, thank you. If we dumped it out into Eufaula, it'd raise the level by 1 foot. So it's a decent sized lake, it does its job, but it's not a monster by any means. It's 75 square mile watershed. Watershed is the area when the rain falls, all that water goes to the lake. So in the case of Lake Carl Blackwell, it actually goes just out a little past I-35, a little bit farther to the north. 75 square miles, though, by comparison, the Kaw watershed is 39,000 square miles. Kaw's watershed goes all the way to the Continental Divide. Keystone Lake is 22,000. Hefner is 9. And Lake Thunderbird, that provides Norman's water. I don't know why Norman would be notable, but whatever. That's a 256 square mile watershed. So it's a decent sized lake, but not on the big scale. In terms of what the lake is used for, maybe only about, if you're looking at the lake and thinking in terms of depth, only about 2 feet of the lake is actually used for drinking water. If it seems like the lake rises and falls a lot more than that, you would be right. The vast majority of your lake level change happens as evaporation. So our big winds and hot summers, they help to evaporate that water off, and there's quite a bit. One final bullet point, let's see, in 2016, our record rainfall fell in the Lake Carl Blackwell area. That was 10 or 11 inches, I believe, in 24 hours. And at that time, quite a bit less than half of the spillway capacity was used. So that's a good transition right there. That's right. So OSU owns and operates the dam. We maintain it. We're responsible for it. And I'm guessing, I don't know, do y'all feel like, does the general public know that? I don't know. Heads, yes, no, maybe? So OSU is responsible for maintaining the dam and to make sure that it's safe and in good condition, we inspect it weekly. No matter what's happening in the world, we're sending somebody from our utilities production team out. They walk the dam, look for any changes, if there's anything going on that we've been watching specifically, and sometimes that can be right. Sometimes it's civil engineering type stuff. Sometimes it's animals. Sometimes it's people. There are eyes and ears. So we visit it weekly. We send out our survey team monthly, and we monitor specific locations on the dam to make sure that it's not moving using high precision survey equipment. And annually we have a civil engineer that we hire to come out and investigate the dam, give it a good once over, and evaluate it in terms of the state regulator, OWRB, about their requirements. So we get a rating on that every year, and sometimes it comes with recommendations. We follow those recommendations and keep up with the dam.
up on your pictures a little bit. You've got some photos of the things you're talking about.
Oh, I've left you behind on the photos. Yeah, so this is early version of the USDA hydraulics lab here. I know the picture's a little bit fuzzy, but the hydraulics lab is a really neat facility. They're using, you can see in the top left-hand corner of the photo, a little white smudge up on the dam itself. They flow water out of the lake and run it through the ditches that you can see in these channels. They'd probably chafe if I called them ditches, but these channels here, and they model and do research on different hydraulic features. So the lake is their water source that they can just turn on and off. They don't have to wait for, a historic rain event. They can just create their own and run through the different hydraulic conditions that they set up in these channels. And you can see they've been doing this for a while. You can see, I don't know if you can see the cars in the top right-hand corner. I bet some of you could probably date the photo perfectly just from the front of those vehicles. Here's another couple of photos that I think are pretty interesting. These are during the construction of the dam itself. What you're seeing here, these are the lake side of the dam. This is the wet side of the dam. And what the contractors have done, you can see they've built up the earth embankment of the dam itself, but what they're preparing for is, if you've seen the dam, you've seen they call it riprap. It's just a bunch of rocks, rocks and concrete that are placed on the water side of the dam. And the way they keep that from sliding down into the lake over time is by building a footing. They're essentially building a ledge there. They've cut a trench and they've laid big flat pieces of rock just to create, if you've ever built a house and a brick ledge, it's essentially like a brick ledge for the dam. And they were doing that with steam-powered cranes and digging equipment back in the day. One other thing, I just mentioned the surveying. This is a picture of one of the survey markers that we have out at the dam. We are always shooting the same spot twice, and we're doing it with high precision modern survey equipment. So if that spot moves by an inch, that's a big deal. Normally when they move, it's going to have moved by a quarter of an inch. And anybody who's seen Oklahoma clay shrink and swell knows that not to be alarmed by a movement of an inch. But these are our spot, and there are a number of them out across the dam. Just got a peek at my notes there. One other thing on the inspections, when we have a rain event, like anytime the water is flowing over the spillway, through our emergency action plan, you wouldn't think of that as necessarily an emergency, but it's a level of alert that we go to. We call that a level 1, and instead of once a week, we're going to go out and visit and make sure everything's functioning correctly every day, and that's anytime the water is flowing over the spillway. And that happens once or twice a year. And sometimes if there's something that comes up that needs special attention, we'll bring in a consulting engineer to look at that specifically. So we have a lot of different opportunities to keep eyes on the dam and keep it looked after and maintained. This is just another couple of views of the dam. Now you can see the riprap here. This is that rock. So that picture that we saw of the steam shovel, that is now very far underwater. And you can kind of get an idea of the scale of what you're looking at from the vehicle that's parked out there and the people.
What's the depth of the water right there at the dam?
42 feet. Although that was when it was built. It's probably less now that it's silted in a little bit. This is a picture of the dam. That little whoop, that's the OG. But this is the dam. And you can see there's a little ruler on the back side there that tells you when we go out to inspect. That's one of the things we're recording, is how high above the spillway the water level is. Is that the one you painted? No. I'm going to have to tell PD about you. All right. This is a picture of what it looks like when there's water flowing over the spillway. Again, you can see that ruler on the back side. I wanted to talk a little bit about the main issue that we're focusing on with the dam right now, and that is that its current condition. Its current condition is considered poor according to a national system of rating where, like, when our engineer comes out to evaluate it every year, they're going to look at a checklist and they're going to rate different elements of the dam, and they're going to give it a good, fair, poor, or unacceptable. And ours is considered poor. And the reason it's considered poor is because that back slope, that one right there, is too steep. Now, is it too steep to be safe? No. It is just steeper than what we would call modern standards. And even that would be okay if we hadn't had some issues with it moving a couple of times. We've had good hard rain event, and we had a little soil movement. Not the whole thing, the whole dam didn't move, it's just that, it just kind of bellied out a little bit, and that's not good. We don't want to see that. So
How do you cut the grass on that?
you do one of two things. One is you hire a very specialized, very expensive piece of mowing equipment that's designed for steep slopes to operate safely, and you remote control it. Or you hire a bunch of college kids with weed eaters and set them to work. Both of them are really effective. One is a lot less expensive than the other. Yeah. No. Oh, yeah. Hadn't thought about goats. The odds, today of that dam breaching, knock wood, there being some movement on the dam are incredibly low, but it still deserves attention because the consequences are so high. And this has been a focus for a while. It's nice to have Craig here because Craig was here when we made the application to the Oklahoma Water Resources Board to get a grant for funding the engineering design for the solution to this. So that project's been completed. We have it on the shelf. It's ready to go. But it's here to address that. It's here to address that poor condition. You might also hear the word high hazard used regarding to the dam, and that sounds alarming. It's important to know that the term high hazard has everything to do with what's downstream. If there was a problem with the dam, do you have life and property that's at risk? And because we have still water, the answer is yes. If that dam were brand new today and in perfect condition, it still would be considered a high hazard dam. It just wouldn't be in poor condition. So when you hear high hazard, it's important to know exactly what that means. Just some numbers on that. There are more than 16,000 high hazard dams in the U.S. Only 2,600 of them are in poor or unsatisfactory condition. 38 of those are in Oklahoma. But most of those are really small dams. There are only 3 that are about the size of Lake Carl Blackwell, and that's Lake Carl Blackwell, that's Lake Ellsworth and Lawton. That's actually unsatisfactory. I haven't been down there in a while. And Chickasha Lake is also in poor condition, and those 3 lakes are about the size. There are none significantly larger that are in poor condition. Again, 4 years ago, we got funding, but we haven't pulled the trigger yet because it's an expensive project. It's a really expensive project. Moving earth and making sure that the dam is safe during construction takes a highly skilled contractor and a lot of money. And so that's where we are today, is that we are working on and pursuing funding. As soon as we have the funding in place, we're ready to go, ready to improve it.
By very expensive, 22 million.
Yep. Yeah.
This may just be me. I see electrical near water. Is that an issue? Those electrical lines at the bottom
sure.
near water. Is there ever a time that that's an issue, that the water would flow over and
No, good-
electrical lines be active? And
Right, good question. Those lines, when those electric lines are put in, they're put in knowing that all the hydraulics and the creeks and everything are there. And they're routed in a way that when we have a high water event, we have a rain event, that the electric is not at risk.
In our backslope project, to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Backslope is currently about 1 to 1.5. And when we get done with the project, it'll be about a 1 to 2 slope. So it flattens it out some. And the reason we're doing that is that improves the factor of safety. The flatter the slope, the higher a factor of safety you get. And that'll put us into an acceptable range on the factor of safety on the dam back slope.
Yeah, just a little bit more than that to give you an idea of how steep exactly that is. I've walked up the side of it, and you really need, like I wouldn't do it in these shoes. It's really slippery, even on dry grass, and you kind of need to put a hand out to stabilize yourself. But when it's that steep, the dam is right there in front of you. It's pretty steep. So that's about all I had for that part. We had some questions? Or,
Yeah, and you got a few more pictures.
Oh yeah,
there.
I do have a few more pictures, that's right.
That's my favorite part, Brandon.
Well, I know, and I'm not doing you right there. Okay.
I think you should ask Matt Hall about that senior's 93 on there.
Well, I'm not going to ask him about all the other things I see written there. So yeah, here's a little bit more about this. We had a rain event just, I don't know, getting on about a year ago, last summer. And we had it, you can see it's just over 2 feet high in this picture over the spillway. So you can see here, that's it dry. And yeah, well in hand on the spillway here. This is that same flood. This is what it looks downstream. So yeah, this is the water flowing out of the dam, and it is supposed to look like this. I think dams are really neat. They are designed to get rid of energy. And so you'll see on just about any dam, then when it flows the water out, one of the things it does before it's done with the water, you'll see it frothing up like that. And that is if you were to just zing that water down into the creek, it'd erode the creek, it'd tear up the creek. This creek wouldn't be stable. So these dams are designed to foam like that. So it's pretty neat to see in person. It sounds neat. There's a lot of thunder and rumble, but it's doing exactly what it should.
There's big concrete blocks where that is jumping up right there. It's hitting big concrete blocks and making the water shoot up like that.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. We even have a video, if it will let me play it. It says cannot play media. We're just gonna have to imagine how amazing it was to watch that water flow down the spillway.
All right. Yeah. Good job.
Questions?
Yeah.
Questions?
A few years ago.
Hold on, James. Let Tim go, and then I'll bring you the mic.
So, what's the highest that's ever been over the spillway? What's the record height?
I can't remember the number offhand, but it is, I believe it's about a third of the height. That's about 40% of the capacity of the spillway.
Several years ago, when Stillwater used to use Lake Carl Blackwell for drinking water, the lake would turn over. Does it still turn over?
It does, because it's a lake. They all do it. And
So is that water being filtered then to keep that taste from being there now?
Yeah, and I'd encourage anybody who would like a tour of the water plant to come on out. I think we got room for all of you. It is a conventional treatment system, and I think its vintage is about 1945. It's been doing its job for a while. What's that? It does not use charcoal. We're using settling basins followed by gravel filters, but no no charcoal. It actually looks like charcoal when you look down on the filters. Oh, you did? Yeah, we're anthracite filter media. So I guess, actually that technically is coal. So yes, we use coal.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for being here, guys. So let's just say worst case scenario, the dam breaches, water comes out. Where does the water start going to the south? I mean, would it go to Cottonwood? Would it go to Range Road? Would it go on into Stillwater? I mean, you all have like a flood map that shows where it would go. Where would that go?
We do. So it's going to follow Stillwater Creek. It's going to follow the path of Stillwater Creek, and it's going to go, where the water goes, and it's wider than your normal 100-year floodplain. So there's more water than a 100-year flood. But yeah, it's generally going to follow Stillwater Creek all the way from the dam all the way down to Ripley.
I think I'm next. I work for OSU, so I want to thank you also for your, diligence and careful planning. So, of the $22 million price tag, how much funding have you secured toward that?
You want me to take that one, Brandon?
Yeah, go for it.
So, as of today, we have not secured, we don't have any money in hand for this yet. We have had tours with our congressional delegation out there, and we have asks in for this year for the appropriations.
Right.
And we are hoping that we receive those allocations for the dam. OSU is also preparing to match. Obviously, we want to get as much help as we can. We are prepared to match whatever it takes to get the project done, because we do know we need to get this project completed.
Right. And are there pieces or parts of it that could be remedied with less money than that? Does it have to be an all or nothing, or can you take care of the most critical parts in sequence?
I wish. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're down to the part that has to be done all at once.
Okay.
The vast majority of that is the earthwork.
Okay. So federal grants, is that like a primary source that you're looking to?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, best wishes.
Thank you. And those fundraising campaigns have been going on since the early 2000s at OSU. Representative Wes Watkins in 2003 really put a hard fight to try to get enough money, and he did secure some funding, but it just wasn't enough. OSU didn't have the available match money at that time to make it happen. But it's been on our target, on our list for a long time, and we continue to fight the fight to try to get it done.
I'm curious, you do a lot of inspections. If I recall what you said, weekly, monthly, annual, that if it were state-of-the-art dam today, would you need to do all that?
You were the dam inspector.
Yeah, it's not required. Is it good practice? Probably. If there are events that take place, heavy rainfalls, as Brandon spoke about, when we had earthquakes, every time we had an earthquake, we would go out and inspect it. So there are things that happen, natural things that happen, that would cause you to want to look at it, even if you did have a brand new dam.
Anybody else? Any more questions?
No hard ones, Greg.
Not
Come on.
from him, though,
That's
please.
insider here.
Yeah, thanks for coming and sharing. Just a couple thoughts. It does seem like, being in the dam safety world, there are several failure modes of dams, one of which being steep backslope, major sloughing event, which, of course, that would be catastrophic. Overtopping is what causes that most of the time when you have really high water. The good news for the group is, if everyone remembers June of 2019, when we had so much rain and roads were shut down through Stillwater, it was flowing 4.5 feet over the spillway. It still had another 8 feet to go. So that it does ease my concern a little bit from an overtopping, sloughing, major failure over the top type event, because most of Stillwater would probably be on high alert, if not already underwater, with that type of extreme rain event. So the back slope, that's certainly needs to be done, but I do wonder about the other failure modes, such as the waterworks tunnel at the base of the dam, to where if there was an internal erosion problem and it failed right there, that would be a midnight catastrophic tragedy.
Right.
Also, continuing seepage, there are some parts of that design that could address those and be much less than the $20 million. Since you say the vast majority is the earthwork, well, if you could kick that down the road a little bit, but do address the other items that could be really potential failure modes, that seems like something that OSU should look at.
Sure, and
could be funded much sooner.
right. And you make a good point, Craig. And I might have oversimplified earlier. There are some things that we're working on, such as the ones that you're talking about, right? There's one seep of note on the dam, and that's one of the things that we look at every week. And we are working with an engineer to design a drain system to drain that out and simplify it and make it easier to monitor.
Great to hear.
Yeah, same thing with the tunnel. We'll be doing that as a separate project to seal up the tunnel and stop that.
Would there be any mechanism available for the people who are at risk downstream on this to somehow contribute to this $22 million to pay and remove that risk that they face? I don't know if there's any legal mechanism to do that.
I don't know that there's a legal mechanism, but we will be reaching out to our partners in the project, which would be the city of Stillwater, the county, among others, to see if we can, help raise money for this project, because it does. This project will benefit the city, will benefit the county, so there's others that will benefit from the project.
And a lot of individuals.
And a lot of individuals.
Okay.
With respect to raising money, as you mentioned, we've been asking Congress for 25 years, and 25 times they've essentially said no. Surely we need more innovative methods to look for money other than going to Congress only to receive a no. So I'm glad to hear you're looking into at least matching funds.
Right.
But are there any other thoughts other than asking Congress?
Certainly, the state is another place that we could run the traps at the state. I will tell you that traditionally the state legislature is more in tune with providing funding for educational reasons, buildings, infrastructure on campus, and that's kind of the hard sell. Is that this is really not apparent to someone that's coming to OSU to school here. So it is a hard sell to talk folks into donating money to a dam that isn't on campus. But we are aware of that, and we continue to work on that, and it may ultimately come to a point where we do have to sell bonds and bond the money to build it and then pay those off over time. I don't think there'll come a day when we just find ourselves with $22 extra million sitting around to build it.
Next year will be 24, and the year after that will be.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Well, thank you both for being here. Everybody give them a round of applause for the information. Thank you.